I'm Janet King, Sector Manager in Education and Childcare at NCFE, and I would just like to say hello and introduce Karina. And Karina is our cash product specialist here, and she's going to tell us all about the exciting world of Slido. Karina.
Okay, so good morning. Throughout the conference today, we'll be using Slido. You can download the app to your phone, you can join in online, or scan the QR code that you can see on the screen at present. The joining code is there for you as well, which is NCFE SE, and it will allow you to access the polls and give you the ability to ask questions too. But if you can't access Slido, then please do use the chat to answer the polls and ask any questions that you may have. Or perhaps you might be attending as part of a group where your tutor may be presenting for you. Maybe they are able to download the Slido, and then perhaps you could shout out your responses for them to input. But whichever way you choose to take part, it's absolutely fine. But Slido is very easy to use, really interactive, and it'd be great if you could download the app and onto your iPhone and use it to join in with us today. Thanks, Janet.
Thank you, Karina. That's fantastic. And I think as we move on to the next slide, Molly, what I do want to say, I suppose I just need to contain myself because we are so excited about being able to actually hold our first student conference. This is something that has been our intention for a long, long time, and the voice of the student is incredibly important to us. So the team that's actually working to be able to bring this presentation to you, to sort of involve you in this conference, is a team of people who've worked very closely with children and young people and families over their career journey. And so we too have studied the qualifications, albeit in different forms and in different ways maybe, but we've studied the qualifications that you are studying. We've followed your journey, and we're really excited to be able to engage with you in that way. It's been an incredibly challenging couple of years, an incredibly difficult journey for everyone. As young people, and I know the word resilience is used in many, many ways, but what I can say is that young people have been one of the strongest people, and yet the most challenged group of people, I feel, through this pandemic. So well done for continuing with your studies, for embracing your studies, for finding the confidence to actually continue. This has been a really difficult time, and we appreciate and acknowledge that. So we want to take you on this journey together. We want to celebrate the exciting world of education and childcare. There are so many different routes, and we'll talk about some of those, so many different opportunities, and I'll talk a little bit about my journey, and hopefully, technology allowing, I've got my fingers crossed here, technology allowing, we'll also be able to hear from William Jones, who is the Student Recruitment Manager at Teeside University, and he will be sharing with you some information about the university and about that incredible journey that you will be able to go on should you choose that way. We'll also speak to Isabel Bailey, technology allowing, and Isabel Bailey is a student, again, who's following in the same footpath as yourself, has gone through this journey, and she's now at the University of Wolverhampton. So we'll talk to Isabel and we'll hear her journey too. We'll also, as I say, have a look at that diverse range of occupational roles within the exciting world of education and childcare. What I've got to say to you is that yesterday I was presenting at a conference in London. The people in that room who were working now as nurses, as clinicians, as teachers, as early years educators, as family support workers, they too had started their journey many, many years ago in exactly the same way that you are now. And it was such a powerful room, absolutely amazing. So you are very, very welcome. I'll try and stay calm because I'm so excited to be back, even if it's a virtual classroom. I'm still very excited to be here with you today. And I think we hear a lot about education and childcare. We hear a lot about the challenges that education and childcare are facing, that they continue to face. But do you know what? You're in this because you want to make a positive difference, and you will. And not only will you make a positive difference every minute, every second, every minute of the day, you know, when you give a nod to a parent who might be feeling a little bit anxious, when you smile, when you have a shared joke with a colleague who might not be feeling brilliant, you are giving that person a little bit of hope and they'll give it back to you. And that is so important. We play it down, but hope and that human kindness goes such a long way. And you do it with the professional knowledge of child development, of early years development, and of course of children and young people development too. Absolutely amazing. You're going to be absolutely amazing practitioners. And more important, you will inspire and motivate generations to come. You will be shaping and molding the future doctors of this world, the future astronauts of this world, the future teachers of this world. You will have an impact. Amazing. Okay, so before I get too carried away, let's go on to the next slide and have a think where all of this has come from. So if we think about a rich heritage, what do we mean? Well, I want to talk to you about the different sorts of qualifications that we have in NCFE. And I want to talk to you there about the cash portfolio. If you're studying a qualification in NCFE that is looking at education and childcare, you are likely to be doing a cash qualification. And I want to tell you a little bit about that rich heritage. So important. So the qualification that you are now studying is actually going to be a passport to so many different things, as I keep saying. You may be studying at level 1, you may be studying at entry level, which comes before level 1, but there is a pathway from level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5 to higher education or to the significant employment in early years and educational settings. So why do we say it's a rich heritage? It's a rich heritage because of its reputation. So cash qualifications within the NCFE awarding arm allow you to have what's called indicators of quality, threaded all the way through those gold standard qualifications. Having a qualification with that cash rich heritage on actually speaks volumes to employers. They often talk about, have you got your cash level 2? Have you got a cash level 3? They're not looking perhaps for that particular level. They're looking for the indicators of quality that your qualification will bring. So indicators of quality for employment, a reassurance for employers that you have been trained by experts in their field. Your tutors, your assessors, the placements that you visit, they are experts in their field and they share their generosity of skills and knowledge with you to enable those future generations, those beneficiaries of the training that you've had, to benefit well. So that's really important to know. It speaks to employers. Be reassured that the qualification you're doing and the training that you're having is second to none. It's got indicators of quality for high performance, to know that that's okay. I know I can do the job well. So important to have that confidence. So that's reassuring in the first place. Secondly, these qualifications talk to higher education institutes, and we'll hear from Will soon, shortly, and he'll be able to hopefully talk to you about what it means to be able to use a qualification to progress onto university. And of course, Isabel as well will talk to us about that. So that reassurance that your options are clear. I want to go and make a difference. I want to go into the world of work. Yeah, great, fine. You're doing a qualification that will allow you to do that. And our level 2 in early years practitioner will give you that, what is commonly referred to as a license to practice. Within the early years foundation stage, of course, it is a legal requirement with the EYFS and the Childcare Act 2006 that somebody working in ratio with children, so how many children can we look after per practitioner, per early years practitioner, then that person needs to hold a particular qualification. So a level 2 early years practitioner allows you to work in ratio at level 2. At level 3, we have early years educator qualifications, and those early years educator qualifications, of course, help you to be able to enter that world of work and work in ratio, as long as you're meeting all those other stipulations as required by that mandated early years foundation stage framework, such as the English and maths at level 2. So really important that that you appreciate that this qualification is giving you that competency framework to be able to work in an early years setting. You're meeting legislation. That means you're going to be holding a very prestigious professional job. And that being a professional nursery worker, an early years educator, an early years practitioner, carries with it some degree of responsibility. There is an expectation that you know about child development. There is an expectation that you will be prepared to communicate with parents, that you'll be prepared to advise, that you'll be prepared to speak to other colleagues and so on. Those things deserve and take a lot of training, and that's why it's important that you are sort of making the most of your journey along the way. If you go on to higher education, then obviously this is speaking about the certain disciplines that you can go into. How can I use my qualification? Where can I go? What can I do? And we'll have a look at the different sort of routes through the occupational map later on. But really important to know that, you know, if you might be in a position where I was, it's sort of when I was doing my qualifications similar to this. I thought, I'm not sure what I want to do. I know I want to work with children and young people, but I don't know in what capacity. I don't know if I want to teach. I don't know if I want to be a nursery nurse, as it was referred to then. I don't know if I want to go into social work. I wasn't sure. So that is why, and within my journey, I did, going back in time now, I did my O-levels, I did my A-levels, and then I decided to do a qualification called the NNEB, and then I worked, and then I went to university. There are so many different routes that you can take. But working with children and young people is extremely rewarding. It's responsible, it's accountable, but you will make a positive difference. And for me, there's no other greater career that you could have chosen. Okay, so the rich heritage. Take some pride in that. Actually be proud of what you're doing, because you're carrying that baton now to the next generation for children and young people. And they need you. They really do. Okay, thank you, Molly. Oh, I'm now going to hand over to Karina. This is the opportunity where we get technical. So I'm going to grab my phone out, Karina, and over to you. Can you just remind us of what we need to do, please?
Yes, of course. So if you'd like to join the Slido, you can go to slido.com or download the app, and then it'll ask you for a code for joining, which is NCFESC. And then as you go in, you will see the first question coming up. Molly has control of the Slido. So can we switch over to the first question, please, Molly?
Oh, wow.
Excellent.
Oh, hang on, because people are
Excellent.
being too fast. I'm a little bit slow here. I want to play. 2 seconds, please. You can actually go through some of those words if you like, and I'll try and think of something different. But there's some brilliant ones there, isn't there?
There are some brilliant ones in there. Patience is a good one.
Yes, sorry, be patient. I'm coming.
good communication skills. Yes, absolutely. Empathy. Oh, this is lovely. There's some really good stuff in there. So caring, kind, the resilience word that is
Brilliant.
coming up an awful lot at the moment as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah.
Okay. It's slowly loading mine. Okay, so right. Let's see the I've got to play, I've got to
I'm
join.
I'm so pleased that you've been able to access the Slido, but if you haven't, then please do pop your answers into the chat. We're quite happy to take your answers that way as well. But yeah, this is lovely. It's looking really good. Just to tell you that
Really?
the little boy on your screen is my grandson. And he is very happy to sit with me when I'm working, and he'll put my headset on and use the calculator and things like that. So I thought I'd use that one for you today. Gosh, yes, responsible, understanding,
Yeah,
confidence with speaking to others, and the understanding of child development. Yes, absolutely. These are all really good.
brilliant. Okay, I've added mine. I don't know if it's come up yet, but I'll tell you anyway in case it's taken a little bit of time. But mine was courage, because sometimes we've got to have difficult conversations and actually deal with difficult things. So that's where that professionalism comes in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's fabulous.
Fantastic. Marvelous, marvelous. I can't see mine. I've done something wrong.
Oh, Janet and technology, that is.
It worked before.
So we've had 178 responses, and
Brilliant.
obviously the larger the larger the word in the word cloud, the more people who have written that one. So yeah, the patience is high, along with the empathy, kindness, good communication,
Yeah,
dedicated and caring. Yeah, really,
brilliant.
really lovely.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I think one thing, would you say, Karina, that it's a good idea to keep these up now, to keep not to keep those up on the screen, but to keep our Slido on our phones in case
Yes,
we have any more questions.
yes, absolutely. You can on your if you're using a mobile phone, you will see at the top that it's got your polls and then it's got Q&A. So you can actually pop into the Q&A and pop some questions in there if there is anything that you wanted to ask specifically, and we'll have a look at those as well. Molly, I'll open it up to have a look at it at this end, so I can look at the questions.
Brilliant. Okay. And when we're using Slido, of course, I would remind us all that, we're on a professional forum. So really, really good that we can see some fantastic skills and knowledge and attributes there that belong to an early years educator. Fantastic.
Mm.
Thank you, Karina.
Okay, Janet, I'll hand back to you.
Thank you. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so what do we mean when we think about getting to work? Let's have a look at actually the curriculum map, those skills, knowledge, and behaviours. I think on the next slide we may have the curriculum map. Let's have a see if we can find that. Brilliant. Now, it's a difficult slide to read and to digest. I fully appreciate that. So what we'll do is take it sort of one step at a time. And of course, you may be seeing this on a larger screen where you're viewing it. You may be viewing this on your own individual laptops and screens and so on. So I'll just sort of give you a little bit of an overview of the different things. So this career progression map was developed and facilitated by the Department for Education, And people working on this were employers in the early years in education field, and also professionals working in schools, colleges, universities. And they gave a great deal of thought as to the sorts of careers that working with children and young people might bring. Because here we're looking at early years, but of course, we're thinking today about that broader sort of career opportunities. Thinking about you may be perhaps taking one of our new T levels, for example, and the T level is a really significant qualification that opens up those opportunities through an occupational specialism. So you may be doing a level 2, as we've said. You could be working in supporting teaching and learning. You could be working in an early years qualification, or you could be working at level 3 in an early years educator qualification, or you may be doing a T level. And the T level qualification will enable you, just in that same way, to take those diverse routes. So within that T level, you'll be studying across those core 12 elements, and then you'll be focusing that breadth of knowledge into a deeper dive. And that deeper dive will allow you to focus on early years, so that 0 to 5 with the knowledge of the child up to the age of 7. Or you may focus on the older children, those children that are following the national curriculum, for example, from 5 to 16, and then you could also, there's a third occupational specialism that's looking at supporting and mentoring in educational settings, and that's looking really at supporting older young people, so older children. So what we can see here in this career progression map are those different roles that you could undertake. And you can see where you've got some dotted lines and you've got almost like a tube map, and you're looking at those different career journeys. You might think, oh, okay, I never thought about that. I never thought about working in a school. I never thought I could do that. Well, you can. And you may well have thought, okay, I thought I could work as an early years practitioner. I thought I could work as an early years educator, absolutely. Then look at those lines that are coming from that. Look at those different occupational routes that are actually growing from that. So we're looking here at maybe childminders, nannies. I've worked with people now that were nannies for a good number of years, and they worked abroad. They worked on cruise ships. I know people who've worked as holiday reps. I've got friends who still do work as holiday reps. Absolutely massive opportunities. So childminding, nannies, working in the sort of leisure industry, working with children in so many different situations that actually opens up the world to you. What about if you think, okay, I know I want to enter the world of work. I'm desperate to enter the world of work, but maybe not from an educational perspective. Maybe you're more interested in social care, in the residential side, children who may need some support, looked after children, residential childcare. You may well find yourself able to actually enter that world. That might be through a route of higher education, where you're looking more at social work, where you're looking at early childhood studies, where you're thinking of youth work. So it might be through progression, or it might be that you look at residential childcare and how this qualification can take you into that route. Now, when you're actually in the world of work, it's important to note that in the early years side of things, I'm looking now at the larger box on the bottom of this rather busy slide, where you've got a list of bullet points. And those bullet points are actually focusing on different roles and responsibilities that you could hold within an early years setting. So you'll see things like special educational needs coordinator. So some of you may be thinking, okay, I would really like to work with children with special educational needs. So within the early years, within the nurseries and the early year settings that you'll work with, you'll be able to see that actually there's a special educational needs policy. There'll be procedures to follow. Don't be afraid to find out a little bit more about that, about how the legislation is protecting children, how that legislation is put into practice through policy. Who's the SENDCO? Who's the special educational needs coordinator within your setting? What do they do? Are there any qualifications to help? And yes, there absolutely are. So there are level 2, level 3, and level 4 small qualifications, some of them only being a couple of units that you can actually take to prepare you. And then at level 4, to actually support you to cascade and manage a very vital role. We're talking about professional intervention here. We're talking about recognizing child development and knowing child development so well that you know when to be patient, you know when things are unfolding at an individual pace and rate, and you know when actually, I'm going to just perhaps take this a little step further because I should clearly be expecting more from this child. Your knowledge, your professional knowledge of child development is going to be crucial to intervention. And that is massive responsibility, but you'll be properly trained to be able to do so. Another area working within early years, and of course as teaching assistants as well, let's not forget that. This is really trying to look at broadly at those two sectors today. Safeguarding, crucial, absolutely at the core of everything you do. And when your tutors are trying to make this as sensational as it can be, it's not always the easiest thing to teach. So I would ask that you remember that. And I would ask that you think, okay, but this is actually one of the most important things that we do. When we're working with children, when we're working with young people, we are we're keeping them safe. So safeguarding is much broader than child protection. We're thinking about making sure that each individual child and young person feels safe, feels valued, is able to participate and to be able to contribute. How many parks have you gone to? And I'm thinking about equality now as an example. How many parks have you gone to where there's a nice, beautiful tarmac ramp? Get to the bottom of the ramp, well, I'm afraid, Billy, who I've brought, there's nothing for him to play on. There's nothing that he can be strapped into. So I've taken Billy for a walk to the park. He's not playing on any of the equipment. He can't use anything. So we have to think wider about inclusion. Thinking about your environment and how children and young people with special educational needs are able to contribute, not just be included, not just finding a space, but participate within that space and really grow and learn and develop. That's true inclusion. So you will learn about all of these things, and it's critical that you give these things your full attention because they will come into their own when you're actually in practice. Use the information that your tutors are telling you in terms of that legislation and policy and procedure. Use it when you go back into your placement, into your settings. If you're lucky enough to have actually found some placements in this strange time, think about that. Think about looking at the policies and procedures. They'll be really pleased at the setting that you're showing an interest in that. I'm learning about legislation, I'm learning about equality. Do you have a policy that I could look at that will help me to see how I can bring that theory into practice, how I can see how or why I need to know so much because it actually impacts the day-to-day work that I'm doing with children and young people. Think about physical activity and nutrition. There's one of those on that list called a PANCO, and it's a relatively new term. So physical activity and nutrition coordinator. Why is that so important when you're working with children and young people? Well, it's massive, isn't it? The difference that it makes when you're actually eating well, when you are resting well, so important that we rest as well as take part in physical activity. And that again, we have that professional knowledge around it, that we know about nutrition. We're not dietitians, we're early years educators, or we're working in a classroom supporting teaching and learning, but we need to know what a good nutritional balanced meal looks and feels like. We need to be able to provide that if we're working as a nanny. Really important. And it's really important that somebody takes the lead for that, that actually evaluates what's going on in the setting. So not all settings need to have a physical activity and nutrition coordinator, but there is usually somebody who's taking a responsibility for that side of things. Do you know who it is at your setting? Would it be interesting to see what they are doing and how they are cascading those messages, not only to other members of staff and the children, but also to families? How are they doing that? How do you get those really important key messages to families who might benefit from that kind of information? And how do you do that in a sensitive, professional way? You may also find that in early year settings and of course in schools and beyond, there might be somebody who's responsible for the literacy or the maths coordination, different areas. We always talk about literacy and numeracy, don't we? It's so boring. What about creativity? All those areas within the curriculum. Music, art. Who's taking responsibility for those different areas? What do they do? It could well be that actually an area of learning that you didn't think would be something that would appeal to you is actually something you really enjoy. You may not particularly like reading. You might find literacy something that you wouldn't, turn to and engage with readily. And yet, when you think about how literacy is developing within young children and how it's used by young people, literacy is magic. Think of the different ways. You could have treasure trails going through an outdoor area with letters, with words, with symbols. We could be using paint to actually, develop our fine motor skills and so on. Literacy is not just about books. Literacy is about speech, it's about language, it's about communication, it's about connections. And the world of literacy, which of course really does involve that love of being read to and that love of books, is more. We use our imagination, we think more than we do. And that's literacy in its other form. So you are all brilliant at literacy because you're thinking all the time. Maths, when you think about mathematics, maths is everywhere, and your tutors will tell you this. And how many times do we hear from students that, oh no, not maths, can't be doing with maths. I'm on here to do a teaching and learning course. Thank you very much. I'm not here to be a mathematician. Well, no, you're not. But you have got a responsibility in all of those different subject areas. Primary school teachers don't know everything about every subject area, but they have a responsibility within their class to know a little bit about everything, to be able to engage with that curriculum. So no, you don't need to be an A-star mathematician or an A-star English literature student. What you need is a love for it and an appreciation of what literacy and numeracy and all those other areas can do. And the most important area for me would be personal, social, and emotional development, because that is critical to everything. So when we think of the knowledge and the skills and the attributes that actually you've come up with, those brilliant words that were on the screen earlier, those sorts of things are actually what build that personal environment. You could have the best nursery, the best school, the best college in the world, the best training provider ever known. What makes the difference? The connection you have, the connection you have with your pals when you're there, and the connection that you have with your tutors. That makes the difference. And that connection is what you need to make and what you will make and establish when you go into the world of work. So the world of work opens up so many windows. And when you think about the other things that are here, you can see that, okay, I've hopefully said a little bit about the wonderful different roles and responsibilities that an early years practitioner and educator will have in the world of work. And remember, there are qualifications at level 4 and level 5, as well as all the different shorter courses that you can see, like the special educational needs coordinator and that physical activity and nutrition coordinator. Lots and lots to do. And being a professional means keeping on top of your game, being prepared to keep learning, because when you stop doing your qualification, education carries on. New things are being developed all the time. We learn new things every single day. And by the way, you'll make mistakes probably. I make a mistake every single day. I couldn't find Slido for 10 minutes. I make a mistake every day, but I try not to make the same one twice. So be prepared for that, because that's when you know real learning has taken place. When if you think maybe not the world of work, or like me, you might want to go into the world of work and then think, okay, what do I want to specialize in? Or you might go into the world of work and carry on to a level 4, level 5, level 6 in the world of work. It's all possible. If you are thinking about university, then there's a few sort of opportunities that I've listed here for you, different disciplines as they call them. So you might go on to early years teaching, primary school teaching, youth work, play work, social work, early childhood studies. There are so many things. Psychology, so many things that the world is open to you. At the conference yesterday, there were people on there that had started with qualifications like you, had worked in industry, and were now working within clinics. They were supporting psychiatrists. They were supporting mental health of children and young people. Fantastic, incredible, and so humbling, the work that these people are doing. And they started exactly from where you are now. The professional training that looks after the sort of the social care and health. So you could look at maybe becoming an assessor, you can see on there, maybe looking at working within the local authority, maybe thinking about Ofsted, maybe thinking about how you can advise and support in that sort of regulatory role. Look at the people who are teaching you. They no doubt started in some way in a similar type of route. They would have started somewhere like you. So this could also be you. So teaching, lecturing, could be assessing, could be something that you think about. And progression in the world of work has never been so clearly mapped than it is now. Deputy managers, managers, roles and responsibilities, graduate practitioners. So you have got the actual vocational career map here. It's a bit of a sort of spotlight. There is so much more that you could do. So whether you're doing a diploma at level 2, you could progress all the way through to a degree. Likewise, if you're doing a T level, the world of work, the world of further study at university. So many options and so many things that you can do. Thank you, Molly. And thank you, Karina.
Okay. So we are going to do another Slido poll, but I'd like to run through some of the questions that have been asked on the Q&A side of things. So, Janet, could you
Sure.
start with this one for me? So with the T level, how
Yes.
can I progress to a secondary school teacher if I have no subject specialism? Would I be better to work as a TA or primary?
Really good question. So thank you very much. And you know what I would say to that answer is that nothing is out of your of sort of grasp. And what I would say is, okay, so we've done the T level. Let's assume you're doing an assisting teaching occupational specialism. I'm making that assumption. I might be wrong, of course. You might be doing the early years educator one. But what you can do is actually think about applying, think about contacting some of these universities. Go to, think about the universities that you might want to go to. So think, okay, which universities are actually universities that I would put on my go-to list? Well, listen to Will coming up soon as well. How might he sort of tackle that question? It would be good to perhaps hear Will's response to this. When you're actually thinking, right, okay, I've narrowed it down. I've got 126 universities that I'd like to go to, and narrow it down even further. And when you've decided, right, these are the universities that I would like to go to, then take that next sort of level. Do these universities offer the qualifications, the courses, the programs that I want to study? So where am I prepared to travel to? Do they offer the courses that I want to do? And that might be something you look at as one. And then making some kind of find out, do a bit of research. When are the open days? Let's find out, because there is a great deal of flexibility with the access to universities. Universities will, and I'm sure will back me up on this, but universities will make their decisions through their admissions and their student recruitment processes, and they will make them on a regular basis. Now, they might have a blanket statement, vocational qualifications, technical qualifications, T-level qualifications are welcome here. And then you might need to drill it down a little bit further in terms of, well, this is the T-level I've done. This is the program I want to go to. What are the possibilities? And communication here is really key. So nobody can give you a straight answer with this, unfortunately. I can't say yes, but I am definitely not saying no. It's about communication, and it's about finding out what that university will accept. And universities are really opening up the door with welcoming arms with the T level, and the T level prepares you well. You've got that 0 to 19 in your core, and then you've done that occupational specialism. Okay, you're not going to have a sort of strong subject knowledge, but that might, in a particular area, English, maths, whatever, but that will have prepared you well to be able to study more, and you might need to sort of have a program that engages with that subject knowledge as well as the educational framework that you'll be very familiar with. So do your digging, do your questions, and don't be put off. Also think about, when you're doing your work experience, if you're doing assisting teaching, spend some time in a secondary school if you're not doing at the moment, and ask these sorts of questions. This is about you, this is about your future. Ask those questions, and I think you'll be surprised at the collaboration and the support that you'll receive.
Lovely, thank you, Janet. I've got a couple more that I'll run through. So this one is, what if I don't want to go to university?
Absolutely. And you know what? Not everybody will go to university. I was really keen to enter the world of work, to find out about, this bringing together that theory and practice, bringing it all together. And it was important for me to do that because I needed to gain some confidence. Some of my best friends are in the world of work now and make such a massive difference in early years settings. You don't need to go to university, absolutely not. What's important is that you've got the choice, that you've got the opportunity, that that at any point in your career journey, the qualifications that you're doing now will give you, though, you'll have those opportunities all the time. The world of work is very exciting for progression. There are level 4 courses, there's level 3 short courses where you can specialize in different areas, and there's also level 5 qualifications. There's a level 5 apprenticeship as well, so you're doing that as you're doing your day-to-day practice. University, if you're actually thinking, okay, my career, I'm ready to make that step. I know what I want to do, or I think I know what I want to do, and I'm going to go to university to study to become a teacher, whatever. If you're doing this qualification above and beyond anything else because you want to apply yourself in some way with early years, working with children, working with families, working with young people. Natural to want to go to the world of work, isn't it? Absolutely. Make the choice that's ready for you, but know that you have those choices and that those choices won't go away. And think about your journey and what will be the right thing for you.
Thank you again. There is another question here which is about university, but I think that it might be helpful to listen to Will before we answer it. And the question is, what should you do if you want to change your occupational route during university? But I think Will may well cover that. And then
Lovely.
there are a mix of questions, and it talks about your job. And I think I'm hoping I'm right in saying that the students are talking about the practitioner rather than our jobs and your job. But it says, what's the most challenging thing about your job? Why did you decide to do this job? What's your favourite part? What's the best thing of working with children? Do you enjoy the job? And then the one that's standing out is, how do you handle the challenging behaviours?
Okay, fantastic. And do you know what? We are going to be listening to Isabel Bailey, and Isabel is actually doing some placement and she's working, doing her studies at the University of Wolverhampton. And that might be a nice one to have a discussion there, but it's a really good question. And I think what I would just say to answer that, to add to that discussion, is that actually there is no magic wand and we're learning all the time, but you will gain confidence. You will become a positive role model. You will be a positive role model for the children and young people. You'll learn about sort of self-regulation. You'll be part of co-regulation. And by that, I mean you will be experts in child development. That's what you're doing these qualifications for. Children and young people development is key to everything, because you'll be tuned in to those individuals. And then with all those keywords, those assets that you had on the first Slido, all of those things will actually allow you to know, to tune in, to think, okay, that's not how Billy usually behaves. I'm just going to keep my eye. I wonder if there's anything else. What's going on? Let me see if I can create a safe space here. Where do we go where children can sit and relax? I'm just going to see if I can encourage Billy to come in here, and I'm going to talk to him. So behavior, remember, is an expression of how we feel. When I'm tired, I don't behave very well. I might be a bit grumpy. But then I'll say, oh, I'm tired. Or other people will say, talk to Janet, she's tired, So we are good at being able to regulate ourselves because we know what's happening, and we just say, leave me alone, I'm tired. I'll be all right in a minute. Young children can't do that. So we need to actually not think about, oh, okay, that's happening, so we need to do this. We need to think about, why is that happening? How can I support that child to help that child feel better? And that's the important bit about being that professional.
That's lovely, thank you. Could we just run over a little area with, there's a question that says, is there any adjustments to how many hours we need to get in placement due to COVID for the level 3 EYE?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. Again, very topical, because while we talk about post-pandemic, we all know that we're in a recovery period and there are spikes of COVID across the country. And really, we're just sort of managing that, I think, in the best way that we can. And it remains very, very challenging. So for 21, 22, if you're on the T level and you're doing the early years educator occupational specialism, those reduction in hours, so it was 750, and then last year brought down to the 415, 100 of which could be used for supervision. That is still remaining in place. If you're doing one of the other qualifications that recommend 750 or recommend 350 if you're doing it over a year, or 250 on the level 2, whichever qualification you're doing, then it's about meeting the competencies. Okay, and so your assessors and your tutors and teachers and so on will be able to support you with that. With your T level, you're being given that certain amount of hours, but there is that flexibility through that adaptation that's remaining in place for 21-22. So if you're in your second year, and I'd be just mindful, if, and I'm talking to tutors and assessors, I guess now as more significantly, is that when we think about students that enrolled this year, we're always thinking about the best possible experiences, and so we're planning in all circumstances to go with that 750. But where there's been an impact in year one, or where you're doing a one-year course, 21-22, those adaptations have been applied. And then keep us involved, keep us informed where you do have those problems, so that we can be that conduit back to the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education for T-level students. And also if you're having problems with any of the issues, you know, that refer and relate to placement.
That's great, thank you. There are an awful lot of questions, and we're not, if we continue to go through these, we won't get through the rest of the presentations. So what I'll try to do is try to round them into individual questions that we'll answer slightly later down the line. But there is one around, there is still a lot of confusion with universities taking the T level. Have you got any information with any new knowledge with this? Again, I think it might be for Will to have a chat about that, but
I think it would be good. I think it would be really good to listen to Will on that one. And also just to say that, you know, we are working incredibly hard. I know you are as well, in terms of contacting universities and advocating for students, and students yourselves doing your own research and so on. I absolutely appreciate that. Universities that we talk to, and we're talking to universities all the time, are welcoming T levels with open arms. So it's just about clarity of messaging. It's just about getting it out there. The Institute for Technical Education and for Apprenticeships and Technical Education are also working hard to actually promote the T levels. The T levels are a very strong qualification, and there is an awareness and an appreciation of that, and that is increasing and growing. So don't worry, is what I'd say.
Lovely, thank you. Molly, I'll hand over to you now. If you could bring up the next Slido question, please. Sorry, back one, yeah. So we'd like to try and understand how many of you have been able to get out onto placement during the pandemic. Okay. That's really interesting.
Do you know, when you look at that, that is really reassuring, isn't it? Not for the 12, 13% who might have done some placement, but perhaps you know, they've not had the fullness of placement that they would have perhaps preferred and appreciated. But it's good to see so many students are being able to access placement, whether that's in a school or whether that's in an early years setting. So brilliant. And for that percentage of students that have not yet been able to go into placement, can I just say, please don't worry. Please do not worry, because there's obviously an increasingly favourable trend here, which wasn't there last year or indeed in the year before. This has been such a challenging time. So hold on in there. do continue with all of that knowledge, all of those the skills that are underpinned by all of the knowledge that you're having, and it looks very favourable in terms of being able to access placement at some point. Where placement becomes a serious challenge, then your tutors will advocate for you. They'll be in touch with us. We'll find a way to support you. Please don't worry. But that's a really happy slide. And for the 12%, I would just say, hang on, because it looks like it's going to get better.
Yes, I'm really pleased to see that 88%. That is really, really encouraging. Throughout the pandemic, Janet and I were holding some open sessions with centres, and the results at that point in time looked far worse than they do on this poll. So that's really interesting to see that there are so many of you who have actually been able to get out. And as Janet says, for those that haven't, don't worry, it will be absolutely fine. It will pick up and you'll be able to get out there. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. So Molly, if we take that one down, and Janet, I'll pass back to you.
Thank you. So if we can go to the next slide, Molly. Okay, now I am hoping that we have William Jones on our webinar call. William, are you there?
I am here, yeah. Can you hear me, Janet?
Oh, I can. Fantastic. I know we've
Brilliant.
had some technical issues, all of us. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And William Jones is from Teeside University. We are absolutely delighted to be able to welcome him to our first student conference. And he is the student recruitment manager. Over to you, Will. Thank you.
Thanks, Janet. Morning, everybody. Yeah, so I'm Will. I'm the student recruitment manager at Teeside University. I've been asked to just give a bit of an overview, really, from a university perspective with regards to T-levels and kind of the fact that we, as an institution, and many institutions across the country, will be welcoming and accepting T-levels, and a little bit about maybe the progression options to university from the pathways that you might be on studying T-levels in the kind of childcare and education sector. It's been really interesting so far this morning, obviously, to hear some of those questions. And what I'll do, because I know time's a bit tight, but I'll try and go through my slides now, and then I'll try and address a few of those questions that came through as well about kind of the progression to university and kind of thinking about subject specialism and that sort of thing, if that's okay. So if we can have the next slide, please, Molly. And then the next one after that as well, please. Thank you. So, I mean, first and foremost, and obviously I can speak on behalf of Teeside University, which is an institution based in Middlesbrough in the northeast of England, for anyone that's unfamiliar. We're a university of about 16,000 students, cover a range of different courses, take a lot of students from a range of different backgrounds, full-time, part-time, postgrad, undergrad, a lot of mature students, and education, as I'll come on to, education and childcare pathways is something that we certainly have, and I'll touch on those later. So I can speak on behalf of us as an institution, but I think probably a lot of what I say is replicated at the majority of universities across the UK currently. We as an institution will quite happily accept T-level qualifications. Obviously they are fairly new to the UK and have only recently been rolled out, and I think this year is the first kind of year that we are seeing some students applying to us with these qualifications. So obviously, you know, when there's new qualifications, when there's a bit of change introduced, it's always a little bit of a strange time, potentially a bit of a worrying time, but just to kind of hopefully reaffirm anyone's fears, the vast majority of the universities in the UK, and certainly ourselves, will be accepting T-level qualifications. T-levels carry UCAS points, And so for students studying currently on a level 3, you may or may not know kind of about UCAS points, but to apply to university, you generally go through UCAS, which is the University and Colleges Admissions Service, and therefore many level 3 qualifications within the UK have a number of UCAS points attached to them. So depending on what qualification you're studying, depending on what grades you come out with at the end of it, you will receive a certain number of UCAS points, and many universities will use these UCAS points to set entry tariffs for particular courses. So for example, we might say that for a course you might need 96 UCAS points to kind of qualify and be accepted onto that course, and that will correlate to a certain grade and qualification. So that might be related to 3 Cs at A level, or distinctions in a B Tech, or obviously for the T levels it will be determining a certain grade that you may come out with. There are some institutions that don't use UCAS points, and they look directly at the kind of the grade, like a C or an A, B or C, an A level, or a distinction or a merit, for example, in a B Tech. But many universities do kind of work it on UCAS points. So we accept a vast range of level 3 qualifications aside from A levels and B Techs, which are kind of the norm that most people know about, and T levels, like all those other qualifications that we accept because they carry UCAS points, and that's how we base our entry on. As has been mentioned on the call earlier by Janet, the T-level qualifications that are coming out are a really strong qualification in our opinion. If you read some of the information and see it presented, they talk about it being potentially the equivalent of kind of studying 3 A levels. If you're to achieve the top grade in a T-level qualification, it's the equivalent in terms of UCAS points of coming out with 3 A-star A levels. So it's a real strong qualification in our opinion. And obviously what it also does in terms of benefits to yourselves as students studying it is you're not only coming out with an academic qualification, but obviously the way the T levels are set up, you are also coming out with a level of practical experience, a level of placement experience and knowledge that you've been on that actually is currently rarely seen for a 16 to 18-year-olds within the likes of a BTEC or an A-level pathway. And this is really key actually for university, because if you progress to university, what you'll find at many institutions, and it does depend on courses, but certainly again within the education and childcare sectors, is that those courses will be very practical, very vocational. There will still be a large level of academic study within university, of course there will be, but actually a lot of these courses are preparing you to move into the world of work, as has been demonstrated by some of the slides shown already. And a huge part of that, and certainly our ethos kind of here at Teeside, is that you need to have those practical skills and those experiences to go alongside the academic knowledge that you're gaining to prepare you to then move into the world of work, so that you feel comfortable when you're graduating and progressing to work, and that you can show prospective employers that you not only have the knowledge but the experience of dealing with various situations, working with certain audiences, etc. So the fact that the T level already gives yourselves as students an opportunity to demonstrate that to us when you're applying to university actually should make your submissions and your applications even stronger, really, because you've got a lot of experience that you can then talk about. Next slide, please, Molly. Thank you. So as I've kind of just touched on there, but a degree is very much an appropriate next step for someone studying a T level. And I know obviously again we've had a few questions already about some people that are obviously looking at university as the next step in their progression and how to do that. And obviously we've had a few people kind of stating what to do if university isn't the route for me following the T level. And obviously both is absolutely fine. In my role, my role is to work with 16 to 18-year-old students and really try and help them understand what the next step for them is following whatever level 3 qualification it may be. And typically there's 3 routes really. One is to move into the world of work, one is to go and get an apprenticeship, and the other is to go into higher education and study a degree. And any of those 3 are absolutely fine. It has to be an individual and personal choice, but our role in universities, the recruitment and outreach teams, careers advisors at colleges that you may be studying at, or schools and sixth forms, all of our roles is really to work with yourselves and try and help you work out what is the best next step for you based on what you might want to do long term as a career, and based on what type of individual you are, and what's your learning style, what's the best thing for you to do. So for those that are thinking of looking at university following a T-level, absolutely, it's an appropriate next step. It would allow you to further your subject knowledge. And again, I'll come on shortly to the range of courses that we have in the area, but it would allow you to develop your subject knowledge further from the T-level. Many degrees allow you to start to personalize your course. So generally, you'll have quite a core kind of first year at university, but in your second and third years, what you'll find is that a lot of degree courses allow you to pick a number of optional modules so that you can start to tailor your degree more to the areas that are interesting to you, or that kind of suit your needs. Obviously, within any particular subject that we may offer at university, whether it's education, history, psychology, for example, there's obviously lots of different kind of areas within those particular subjects, and some people may have a particular interest and desire in some areas of the education sector and not so much in the others. So that degree kind of and the options of being able to pick various modules is really useful to students to kind of get the full enjoyment and the full kind of personal benefit out of what they're studying for those 3 years with us. As I've mentioned, certainly again at Teeside University, but it will be the same at a number of institutions, and I think it will be very similar for education and childcare courses across the country. There will be very vocational courses. So again, we've talked about furthering your knowledge, and there will be a level of academia involved, but it is to continue what you're kind of currently doing within a T-level, and having you out on placement, having you interacting with employers, with the audiences that you might work with in the future, developing and learning those key practical skills that you'll be learning about, and making sure that over those 3 years you've had the options to do enough of that, so that again, when you progress out into the world of work as a graduate, you feel comfortable in those kind of scenarios. You can show employers that you've got the experience and the skills to handle those particular situations. And as I've mentioned there, again, engagement with employers for us throughout the degree is something that we heavily promote within our education sector. This could be quite simply from kind of employer fairs and careers fairs that we offer, and we bring in local and more regional employers within the education and childcare sector that you can speak to understand more about the roles that they have available, to understand more about the key skills they're looking for, so that as you're progressing through university life and you're getting closer to graduating at the end of it, you have a good understanding of the sorts of things you would need to be displaying in job applications and CVs and things like that to try and obtain the job that you're interested in at the end of it. Similarly, engagement with employers would come through the likes of site visits, whether that's our students going out obviously on placement and working in these kind of settings, whether it's guest lectures and having employers come in and speak to our students so that they can give a real world perspective of the situation, the landscape, and those sorts of things, and allow there to be discussion and engagement in that way, or whether it's even live projects, so not only through placement, but there might be certain projects, certain kind of team projects, certain essays that you're writing that would be based on live projects that employers can come in and tell us and tell you about and get you involved in. So again, everything is very real, very applicable to the world of work that you'd be moving into. Next slide, please. And so just to give a bit of an overview of the sorts of progression routes that we have available here at Teeside, and again would be probably fairly similarly replicated at other universities around the childcare education kind of sectors. So we have a category called Education and Youth, and these are some of the main courses that we offer within that. So we have things like childhood and youth studies, we have early childhood studies, which obviously focuses on the kind of the very early stages. We have education and training, which looks more broadly at that kind of subject and doesn't necessarily focus on one particular area of younger or older learners. It looks at the piece as a whole. We have education studies, which is obviously fairly similar, but more academic based and less looking at the training environment and more kind of the current educational environment that we'd have within the UK. And we do have some other kind of smaller sub-disciplines of that, but those are the four kind of key areas or main areas really. And within all of those, you'll see after each one of those it says BA Honours, and for anyone who's unfamiliar with that, that's just the degree classification that you get. So with any degree, it's a Bachelor of Arts in this case, or it could be a Bachelor of Science. It's just how the degree is classified, and it's an honours degree, which means it's a full 3-year degree. So that's the qualification you come out with. For all of those subject areas there, we do have foundation years, which is kind of like a year 0 or a year before you actually start the degree. And that is for learners who maybe haven't quite achieved what they've needed to at a level 3, haven't quite got enough UCAS points that I was talking about, or maybe had a bit of a disaster in exams or in their final year and didn't quite come out with what they were expecting and what they needed. We don't want to put those students off from opportunities to attend university and start on degree courses. So we offer a foundation year, which is kind of like a base year, if you like, to allow people to kind of upskill and get up to a point where we're then comfortable that they can handle year 1, 2 and 3 of a degree course. So we have that available, and there are many of these courses as well that we offer as either a foundation degree, which is either a 1 or 2 year degree rather than the full 3-year degree. So you wouldn't come out with a full BA Honours degree, but you would still come out with a foundation degree within that particular area that you study. And then some of them have a top-up option available as well. So some students might opt to do a 2-year foundation degree, thinking that might be what they want to come out with, and actually there's the option at the end of that to top it up and do a final 3rd year anyway, if actually you're really enjoying it, you think you're handling the work kind of better than you thought, and you want to go for that final year to be able to come out with a full BA Honours degree. So there's various different pathways, and obviously all of these will relate back to the slide that Janet showed closer to the start of the presentation around the various routes into different employment, the routes of how far up the career ladder and into different settings that you might want to go. So it's worth kind of thinking about where you might want to be longer term, and is a degree, is higher education a route for you, and if so, what would a full degree get you and allow you to do, what would a foundation degree allow you to do. So those are the offers and the opportunities that we have here at Teeside. Next slide please, Molly. So I guess the other thing I just wanted to kind of quickly touch on was the benefits of T-levels, and hopefully you're already seeing these from studying them yourself. But again, in terms of that progression to university, it is a very valid option. So I want people to kind of not worry about that. And if anything, actually, the things to be talking about that I've touched upon when you are applying to university, and you can tell us that you're a T-level student, actually there's some benefits here that can kind of make you stand out and make your application quite strong against other candidates. The benefits of the T-level, as I've kind of mentioned, but you are getting that academic content and knowledge, and it is the equivalent to 3 A levels, so it's a strong qualification that you're studying. Obviously that placement time in industry gives you that vocational experience, so you're actually applying to university with almost the best of both worlds in a way, and that's certainly something that you could kind of sell within your application. You're fully immersed within the subject area as well, so obviously in a T-level qualification you've picked a particular area, and then obviously an occupational specialism, but you're immersed in that area. So that's maybe something that you can talk about and show that everything that you're studying is within that particular sector, because that's something you want to progress into. And I think one of the other things with the T-level, and this is from the outside looking in, I guess I don't teach the A-level, I'm not an expert in it, but from the pieces I've read on it and the way that it's structured, it looks like it kind of gives you the opportunity as a student to the responsibility of managing your own workload a little bit more. You've got the academic side of things, you've got the placement time, you'll obviously have a level of assessment, a varying level of assessment to do throughout the 2 years in different ways, both maybe exam-based or maybe placement-based, reflective diaries, things like that come alongside it, assessments from the actual placement host. So I think all of that as well allows you to show that actually for the 2 years you've been doing the T-level as a 16 to 18-year-old before you've even applied or come into university, You've obviously got some key skills there which are very similar to what we would be looking for students at university, who then have a level of responsibility in terms of managing their own workload, doing a lot of work outside of teaching time, obviously having to fit in other things like placements, like maybe part-time jobs, like other things that kind of come up. So I think these kind of things are really key. When you're doing your application to university, you have a personal statement to complete, which is a short piece of written text to kind of state why you think you'd be a good candidate for the course and the university. And I think these are the sorts of things, when you're talking about your T-level study, that you could really pull out to show, you know, the skills and the knowledge that you possess. Next slide, please. So in terms of the next steps, and this was touched upon a little bit earlier with Janet and kind of one of the questions that came through, but certainly if university is something that you're kind of thinking about post T-level, the best thing to do is just start doing your research nice and early. And there's loads of information out there, obviously online. You can go to UCAS, which has a wealth of web pages and resources on there, which details everything for all the universities. But you can then obviously go on to individual university web pages, and we have course pages for every course that we offer. This will typically give you more information about what is studied on that course, a bit of an example of various modules, progression pathways at the end of it, and jobs that this leads to. It details the entry tariff points and what we would be looking for from your level 3 qualification to allow you entry onto the course. So you can start doing all of that at any point, and obviously you can take some time to do that and have a look across different institutions. As has also been mentioned, and again, this is very much the role of myself and the team here at the university, we run a lot of open days and taster days throughout the year, aimed at both year 12 and year 13 or first and second year students during their time in further education, to come on campus, see what university is about, take part in subject discovery days to get a bit more of a taster of a specific area and an understanding of what that involves, speak to current students studying those courses, speak to lecturing staff that deliver it, ask any questions, try and work out which course it is for you and which institution it is for you that might be the right kind of progression pathway. You can always contact universities as well. Many universities, ourselves included, have kind of the chatbot functions that a lot of companies have now. So if you just at any point want to have a chat, head onto the web page, a little chat bot will open, and you can ask us any questions that you've got about university, courses, progression, whatever it may be. We're always here to help. And just, yeah, knowing that, I think the main part of what I wanted to get across today was asked to kind of mention is just, you know, attending university is a very appropriate, beneficial and achievable step for anyone at the T-level. If it's something that you're interested in doing, look into it, do your research. It's definitely something that you can do. Although T-levels are new to the area, it's not a barrier to allowing you that next step onto a degree. And I think that would be my last slide, Molly. Yes. So if I've got 2 more minutes, Janet, sorry, just really quickly to try and address a couple of the questions that I think were mentioned a little bit earlier on, if I can remember them. I think one specifically was around wanting to move into teaching and a subject specialism and kind of that sort of thing. What we would recommend, if you know that you want to move into teaching, and you're studying your T-level at the moment, brilliant. And again, university would be the next step. The recommendation we would normally have is, if you're wanting to teach in a secondary school and you have an idea of what subject you would like to teach, generally the best thing to do is to study that particular degree subject as an undergraduate. So if you want to teach history, study history as a degree, and then you would do a PGCE, a postgraduate qualification, in your education to allow you to then be a teacher. But you've obviously got your undergraduate knowledge and degree as your kind of your main crux of moving into that area. If you are thinking more about teaching at a primary and a younger level, then obviously you could still study a particular subject area, and obviously doing something like maths or science or something would obviously be, you know, still applicable. But you could also quite simply go down any of those education courses that I've just mentioned there. Obviously, some of those more than others focus on the kind of the early childhood, the younger age groups, and then that would still allow you to then step on to a PGCE qualification, either here or elsewhere, that would allow you to get your teaching qualification and then allow you to become a primary school teacher. So that's kind of the general advice we kind of give if you have an understanding of what age group and level you'd want to teach at, and if there's a particular subject in mind. Having said that, if you are studying a particular course at degree level and you kind of have a bit of a change of mind, it's still very feasible to then go on and study your PGCE post degree, get your teaching qualification, and then still potentially move into a different subject area, albeit there might be a little bit more training involved. You might have to speak with the school about kind of showing that you can still work across discipline, but it's still very achievable. People will do undergraduate degrees not fully knowing what they might want to do, and during their time on the degree course it can very much open their eyes up to what else is available. So there's flexibility kind of there in terms of moving around. And I think that was the main question that stuck in my mind. I can't remember if there's anything else that would be useful for me to address now. Otherwise, thank you very much for listening, and I hope that was useful.
Thanks very much, William. It was certainly useful, and thank you for addressing the questions that had popped up earlier. So we'll move on. I think Janet may have dropped out of this at present, but so I will continue. So it was really informative, by the way, thank you. So Isabel, are you there? Are you with us? Ah.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I was muted.
Lovely.
Right.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's really kind of you to come in and have a chat with everyone. So if you don't mind, if you could begin by telling us a little bit about the programme you're studying, please.
Sorry, I can't quite hear you. What did you say?
I'm sorry. Could you tell us a little bit about the programme you are studying at present?
Present. So I'm currently studying BA Hons in Early Childhood Studies. I'm on my level 4 and I'm doing my placement competencies aside it, which is something that the University of Wolverhampton offer to do it along with your course. And when you graduate, it will look towards that as well.
Oh, brilliant. Sounds really good. Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Could you tell me a little bit about your journey and how you came to be studying for an NCFE cash qualification in early years?
Yeah.
And what you enjoyed most, and whether placement was very challenging for you during the COVID period.
Yeah. So I started. Well, I knew that I always wanted to make some kind of difference in people's lives, and I always loved working with children. I thought it was something different every day, but at the same time it can be such a unique process. So the cash level 3 diploma in childcare and education was the perfect course for me, really. One thing that I enjoyed the most was the opportunities in the course for the hands-on experience and how I was able to apply all that knowledge into my work, and it was really beneficial to what I was saying, and it was very benefiting to, and it really boosts my confidence when writing within my assignments. One thing I found challenging. Go on. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I was going to say.
No, you're okay.
That part where you're actually turning your knowledge into practice is so important.
Yeah.
You actually, you do knowledge learning, and then you go out into your setting, and then all of a sudden, I think it clicks, and that's why I had to learn that.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
that's really useful for me moving forward. Yes, I think that's really valid, actually.
Yeah,
Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're okay. Yeah, it is really benefiting placement and the course itself. Obviously, with things such as safeguarding, child development, until if you hadn't done the course, when you go into setting, you wouldn't be able to apply your knowledge into practice. So I think it really benefited that way, because you could link on a level with the other practitioners there who are already qualified and expand your knowledge even more. Yeah. One of the things I found challenging throughout the pandemic was definitely placement. As of when I was studying my course, placement wasn't really an option because I finished earlier on in this year. So I personally, I did do a bit of placement about half a year on my first year, but on my second year I didn't do any placement at all. So I was quite lucky enough to be able to do that little bit, as it was only a small amount of time, yet it meant so much and meant I had that much knowledge from it. It still benefited me just as much as not being able to do any, really. But
yeah. I think there were certainly a good few people in your position during this year, and the fact that you'd had your year before placement enabled you to go back and look at that and reflect and make sure that you could actually meet your criteria by doing those reflection pieces, and then anything that was missing, you could sort of fill the gaps. So I think there was many people like you. That's why when we did a poll a little earlier, where I wanted to understand how many people had been able to get out in placement, and 88% of our audience had been able to get out, and I found that really encouraging.
Yeah, definitely.
We also had a bit of a discussion earlier around challenging behaviour, and a lot of the questions that have come up on the board are around how do you cope with challenging behaviour, what do you do if you've got a child who is perhaps has a disability, say is autistic, and how do you cope with that side of things?
Well,
so I don't know if you...
Yeah, I can answer. Personally,
Okay.
for me, because I have been in settings where there is challenging behaviour, and I am currently in a setting, I think one of the main things is to use the people around you as role models, and ask them as many questions as you need. Personally, every child is different and every child is unique. However, you have to go beyond that behaviour that they are presenting to you that moment in time. You have to find out whether something happened that morning, what is going on in their life as much as you can due to safeguarding. Get one-to-one contact with the child and understanding their needs and focusing on what they really enjoy doing, even if it doesn't suit with what you're doing at the moment in time. I think it's really important to understand their own individual needs and fulfilling them.
No, that's a lovely answer. Thank you very much for that. It's really useful to understand from somebody in your position how you would manage that challenging behaviour. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm back. I couldn't come off you. So as if by magic, Molly has helped me. So Isabel, that was so fantastic. And if you had a magic wand, Isabel, what would be, and I'm putting you on the spot here, what would be the best advice for the students? They've listened to how technical vocational qualifications, such as the cash diplomas, and how the T-level qualification, how those qualifications can allow them to enter the world of work and enter university. Is there anything that you think, I wish I'd done this, or I wish I'd thought about this? What's the best advice if you could go back?
The best advice would be to just be confident and be true to yourself. Be what you want to do. It's okay if you don't know what you want to do. It's okay if you finish your course and you're like, oh, there's plenty of time ahead of you, and be confident and just go with you. I always say go with your gut and be confident, because it will bring you so many great opportunities and things, such as me doing this call. If I wasn't, normally I'd be like no, but because I've been confident and overcome it, it's gonna benefit me in so many ways. And just give yourself time. Don't think you have to make a decision there and then. Just give yourself time, but be confident in what you're doing. Just yourself. Don't think about anyone else or what anyone else wants to do. Just do you.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
Such wise words, aren't they? Such wise words. Take time, think about what you're doing, think about why you're making the decisions that you're making and what it's going to bring
Definitely.
to you.
Yeah.
And I think, the fact that if you're not sure what it is you want to do, then don't worry. And I think that's come across really clear. It's come across from you, Isabel, and thank you so
Yeah.
much because we can, tutors, assessors, lecturers, NCFE cash, we can talk to students and really sort of explain the integrity and the quality of qualifications as much as we want to. But listening to someone who's on that journey, listening to a peer, makes such a massive difference, I think. So you talked about looking for positive role models in placement. I
Yeah.
think you're an incredible ambassador for students in terms of next steps and having that really good intuition as to, these are the options, these are the opportunities,
Yeah.
and take your time and think. So thank you so much for this morning. It was absolutely fantastic. And I just want to say, I don't know if Will's still on the call, but sorry, Will, I couldn't come back on. I had some mute problems. But what I did want to say is a massive thank you to Will as well for a wonderful presentation, and also the reassurance that presentation brought for me. One thing I will say, and just for confirmation, is that a lot of universities, a lot of schools, a lot of colleges talk about technical and vocational qualifications under a grand umbrella of BTECs. BTECs in this context, we're talking about vocational qualifications. So your NCFE cash diplomas at level 3, your T levels are qualifications that will allow you to progress. I just wanted to sort of make that point, but absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, and good luck with everything, Isabel, as you carry on with your journey.
No, thank you. Thank you very much.
Lovely, thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Isabel.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to the next slide. Thank you.
So, Molly, could we do our next Slido question, please? So this is a free text answer. So it's just to find out whether today has really sort of influenced you in any way, to see what progression routes you may be interested in. So if you'd like to start typing in your... Brilliant, thank you. Speech and language therapist.
Fantastic, massive range, play
really
work,
great.
Children's entertainer overseas. There are so many things, and I don't think I told you that I've got a friend who does that. I also know students who went to do that, and they've been doing that for years and years, and they have a ball. They have a wonderful time. They work hard, but they are really enjoying what they're doing.
Play therapist.
Mm. I spoke to people yesterday at the mental health conference about the art therapy, and somebody was using art as therapy with children and young people with mental health problems, and they were talking about that and how important that was in terms of expression, in terms of communication. Wonderful work that's going on there. I'd like to remind you that this is a professional forum.
Thank you. Yeah, midwifery. it's another route. Yes, I think this is very true. A nursery practitioner, and maybe go into uni if I want to expand my choices. But I think, you know, that's it. If you want to go out into the workplace and you know, work as a nursery practitioner, and then see what you want to do next, there's nothing to stop you doing that at all. It's great to be able to go out into practice and then think, oh, I really like this area, and perhaps I'll do something in, you know, perhaps in the SEND side of things or whatever. But it's a great way to do things, I think, as well. That's lovely. Thank you very much for your responses there.
Thank you, Karina.
Thanks,
Brilliant. And I feel as though I know a lot more now about Slido and about how technology can really help. And that was quite a simple concept. So brilliant. And all of these opportunities, all of the opportunities that I've seen on here, child psychologist, forensic psychology, we've got a plan here about going to Manchester, that the whole thing there planned out. Fantastic. There are some children and young people that are really going to benefit from the work that you're going to do and the study that you're going to follow. So thank you. Okay, let's return to the presentation. Thank you, Molly. Okay, so when we think about resources that we have available to you, what sorts of things do we have? So we have what's called a careers toolkit. Now, I don't know if you've been on the website and you've looked at that careers toolkit, but you can you can go on there and you can explore it. And the careers toolkit is a wonderful tool to help you to again think about, digest the information that was shared with you today, and to think about those different options. You can really start to think, okay, I can take some pride in this professional qualification, my career, my next steps. Let's do some proper thinking, some proper reflecting, and the careers toolkit will help you with that. It also has been designed to help staff. It's got leaflets on there and things on there that can be information on there for parents. It's got information on there in relation to different occupational roles, access to interviews, podcasts and things like that really engage with the different careers and the different occupational options. So the careers toolkit is a fantastic tool. Now, when we think about the world that we live in education and childcare, whether we're thinking about assisting teaching, whether we're thinking about early years practitioner work, it tends to be a career choice that is predominantly favourable and appeals mostly to females, to women. And what I want to say is that the men, and I hope we've got males that are actually listening to our webinar today, males in childcare do so well. You will go so far, and you will actually contribute so much in the lives of children and young people. And throughout our career toolkit, we wanted to be very mindful that we would actually being as inclusive as we could be, and making sure that we're talking to people who want to work with children and young people. We're not talking to half of society. We're talking to everyone. We're talking to you. So have a look at the careers toolkit, because there's articles on there. We're going to have some engaging communications with men in childcare that have been so successful, that have gone on to manage, they've gone on to teach, they've gone on to lead. They have done so well. And I know that you know that. And I know that equality of opportunity and so on is critical, and so and part of everything we do. But it's also a fact that education and childcare, and in particular early years, is dominated by a female workforce. That automatically creates an issue in terms of a recruitment situation. If we're only ever picking from a certain demographic, then of course we're always going to be struggling to find really good early years practitioners. So I would encourage the careers toolkit to be used, and those things that were on the that very first Slido that Karina introduced to you, that was looking at all of those things such as empathy, understanding, being a good listener, being courageous, all being creative, all of those things, which were wonderful things, they are human traits. They're not female traits, they're human traits. And so we would want for that appeal to grow and be strong. So the Careers Toolkit is there for you. The other thing that's available is something called a CPD carousel. Now, that's the CPD is continuing professional development. And a carousel doesn't mean you're going on a fair ride, but what it means is that the professional development of practitioners, teaching assistants, mentors, staff, the teachers that are working with you now, Karina and myself, we are all professionals. And those professionals need to make sure, as I said at the beginning, that you're ahead of the game, that you're keeping on top of things. What's going on in the world of early years? What's going on in the world of education? So important. So you're not a student for life unless you choose to be. However, you're learning all the time, whether you sign up to learn or not, because every single day you will learn something new and you will store that information. So we run something called the CPD, Continuing Professional Development Carousel. And that just means that it goes and it comes around on a regular basis. And it takes place every term. And I think the next one is actually in February. So every term there will be a CPD carousel, and there are dates and information about that. Also, the carousel opportunities, the events that have happened, will also be available for you to watch, to listen, and to do further research or have some debate around, because they're topical debating issues. So these are all things that are free. These are things that will engage with that professional development. They'll help and complement the studies that you are doing. And they're also something that you can link into live, and you can listen to experts talking about a particular topic. There's often a podcast or an interview. So something like the wonderful opportunities you've had with Isabel and William today. So those opportunities will be open to you. So CPD carousel also, and this is sort of throwing this out for tutors, assessors, lecturers, please let us know if there's anything that you would like us to focus on as a topic, and we can make sure that we do that. And what we also do is we link to the CASH alumni. So if you're not a member of CASH alumni, and again, you can join free at the point of access, and all the details are on the website, and we can also make sure that links are sent. But the alumni will help with curriculum planning, it'll help with articles on certain topic areas, it will link in to the CPD carousel. There are so many opportunities and benefits to being part of that professional network. So as students, you can be part of that. As members of staff, you can be part of that. I'm part of that. So please do have a look and see what's actually available for you, because there are so many things at your fingertips. And on the next slide, it might tell us, it might take us to those links. And then if we put the PowerPoint in the chat, you can actually peruse these in your own time. Let's try that out. If not, we'll put those, we'll get those links to you. Brilliant, brilliant. So we're not going to go through all of those things, because I think these are things where you need to take time. You need to have a look. You need to explore things that are very sort of more important for you, something that you're looking for within the Careers Toolkit, a topic that you're interested in the carousel, and a particular sort of area or time to explore what's available for you on CASH alumni. Another resource, so if we move on to the next slide, Molly, another resource that's actually really brand new, hot off the press, and again something that I would suggest that you explore in your own time, is the work that we've been doing with Dr. Diane Boyd of Liverpool John Moores University, and this is a resource that encourages an awareness of sustainability. with children and young people. So within this document, and again, explore it at your leisure, but within that, we're sort of looking at, okay, well, what do we mean by sustainability, and what sorts of experiences and activities can we do with children and young people that are actually introducing them to that love of nature, to that appreciation of the environment, and so on. Because that's what it's all about. It's about looking after our planet, isn't it? So that it can continue to look after us. And that relationship that we have with the environment and how critical that is. And so that's explored through that sustainability resource. Again, it's free to download, and it's got activities that link to the early learning goals for the end of reception year. And of course, you can use the activities with any age of child as appropriate for the safety aspects and so on. And you can try these things out in the classroom, perhaps. And there are also some activities to do with older children as well. And it will give you an idea, you know, oh, what about this? What about that? So people talked about being creative and being playful in that first Slido. And I would say absolutely, absolutely. And these sorts of tools and resources give you those opportunities and actually are educational in the way that they do that as well. So do explore that in your leisure as well. Thank you, Molly. Oh, another question. And I'm going to take
So we
this
have another
opportunity.
question.
Yeah, before Karina loads the next question, uploads the next question, just remember, please, that you're on a professional forum and that you are representing children and young people everywhere. Thank you.
So yes, Molly, if we could please go to the next Slido question, that would be really useful. Thank you. So we'd like to understand, if you were to come to another conference, are there topic areas that you would like to see covered during the next conference? And that will help us to ensure that we are giving you what you want from these sessions, really. Mental health and safeguarding. Mental health. More guest speakers.
Lovely. So really, okay, children's mental health, absolutely. We will definitely, I think,
Yeah.
be thinking about that. Okay, so you can see, and I'm guessing those things that are highlighted there, Karina, are where there's been a greater sort
Yeah.
of interest. Okay.
Yeah, so at the moment we're children's mental health, level 3, and guest speakers.
Lovely.
More about level 3, yeah. So that's really useful. Thank you very much.
Brilliant.
Really
Thank you. Yeah.
We'll just give it a little bit longer to make sure that we capture as much as possible. So if you get your words in quickly, that would be useful.
Fantastic. And just remember, you know, I know somebody's put on their BTEC courses, because I know that Will was talking about BTEC courses. We're talking here in general about an umbrella term, so an overarching term for qualifications that are vocationally in context. So the qualifications that you're doing, whether that's a T level or whether that's a NCFE cash diploma in early years in education. It would be good, wouldn't it? A lot of people, and it's, you know, it's absolutely right that you're interested in the terms and conditions. So I think it might be really useful to perhaps invite an early years educator and maybe a teaching assistant, and they could become part of our guest speaker role, and also somebody who's working in mental health as well. That's something that we could perhaps think of, as well as all these other ideas. Fantastic. Safeguarding, Senko, absolutely.
That's very good. Really, really interesting to see. Okay, I think we probably need to move on. So thank you, Molly. If you could switch that one off, and we'll hand back to Janet.
Thank you. So I think we just take a little reflection, because we're coming towards the end of the webinar now. And I think if we move on again to the plenary, Molly, just on to the next slide. Thank you so much. So here, I think we just reflect and think, wow, it's been 2 hours, you know, it's gone really quickly. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've been inspired by the talks from Will and Isabel. I know I certainly have been, and take some pride in what you're doing and the impact and the differences that you make already. That if you're going out into placement, those children, those young people, they will not know, they will not understand that, you know, oh, I'm a student, I'm on placement, I'm not working here. They'll make a connection with you. They're going to value and trust you as a member of staff. Take some pride from that and learn from everything. I think Isabel was very clear, wasn't she, about don't be afraid to ask questions to your mentors. Don't be afraid to take an interest in what's going on in your environment. Absolutely safeguarding confidentiality, all of that. Remembering that you are on a route to a professional qualification. So you do have responsibilities, you are accountable, but take pride from that, because that means you're doing something worthwhile. Think about your university choices, if university is something that you have in your sights. Think now about the universities that you might actually be interested in going to. Talk to your tutors, talk to the universities, you know, on the websites, find out. Will said something about a live chat. Find out about open days at the university of your choices. Ask the questions that you need to know. Do come back to us so you can feedback any issues, and tutors as well. I would welcome and encourage, because, you know, come back to us where there are any particular concerns or issues, and we'll do what we can as well in terms of engaging with higher education institutes. What really was the key message for today, and then we'll perhaps round up with a few of the questions, Karina, if there are any left there that you can think of. But I think what's really key to this is that what you are doing will be the best thing you've ever done, because it will make a complete difference, not just to the children and young people whose lives you're going to impact for generations. Remember that. You impact one, it's like a domino effect. They'll remember you. I bet each and every one of you can remember somebody, you know, a teacher in your life who's made a massive positive difference to you. You'll be that person. You're going to be that person. So make sure you give that child or young person what they deserve, exactly what you deserved. Make sure you're a positive role model. Take pride. Remember your responsibilities. Remember this is professional practice, and make sure that you hold your head up. You're courageous, you're brave, you're strong, and you're an advocate for the children and young people. You will be an expert in child development, and make sure you feel confident to be able to do that. We are so delighted that you've been able to join us for our very first student conference, and thank you so much. I'm inspired by the fact that you're here. I hope you're inspired and motivated by the things that you've seen and heard, and we will continue with our student conferences, and we really do welcome your interaction. And, you know, we might even think about having case studies from a particular training provider, school or college. So please, we'd like to hear from you if you would like to talk about what you're doing, what inspires you, and any projects that you've been involved in that you know have made a difference to you and your learning. Okay, do we have any questions to finish off with, Karina, at all?
Yes, Janet, there are quite a few, and I will be honest and say that we are not going to get through them all. But as Janet has said,
okay,
if you have a pressing question that you want answering, then please do contact us, and we will do our best to do so. I think there is one here that I'd like to try and cover off.
Okay.
I think that Isabel sort of spoke a little bit about challenging behaviour and how she would cope with challenging behaviour in children. So that was good. That's covered off, not fully, but it's obviously covered off some of those questions. And then you spoke about men in childcare, because there's a gentleman here today, Dan, and he's asked, there's more girls doing childcare than guys. Because of this, would there be less chance of me getting hired? And I actually did write him a reply, and just said that it's great to see a young man studying childcare, and the sector is very short of male practitioners. My feeling is that you would be in a very good position if you gain your qualifications to get a great job.
Absolutely.
But you did cover that off.
Yeah, and Dan, go on to Careers Toolkit, have a look at some of the podcasts and things that we've got uploaded. If you can't find anything, talk to your tutors about getting back in touch with us, because we've got some amazing podcasts and interviews with men in leading roles in childcare who did exactly what you're doing now, and they've gone on to do so many wonderful things. Stick with it.
Absolutely.
Stick with it.
And then there was a question about the links. Is it possible to put the links somewhere, Molly, that is accessible for everyone, so that they can go on and look at the Careers Toolkit, etc.?
Yeah, I'll email the PowerPoint.
Brilliant, thank you, because the PowerPoint itself is too large to come out, I think. So it's best if we just send the links out. And the rest of them, I think we're going to have to leave and ask you to contact us directly if there was something pressing that you wanted us to answer. There were so many which were questions directly to myself and Janet. You know, do you like being a practitioner? What's the best thing about your job, etc. I've never been an active practitioner. I don't hold an early years qualification. Which you might be surprised to hear, but I came into my role with cash originally to run a team. So I ran a team of people who knew all the things that they needed to know. And over the years, I've learned an inordinate amount about childcare, and have been involved in the development of new qualifications. So it's a diverse way. I mean, as a practitioner, you could decide, actually, I would really like to work within an awarding organisation and develop qualifications in the childcare arena, and take a job such as Janet's or mine. Mine is very much about the content of the qualifications and everything cash. So everything around the cash products. I've worked for the brand for 12 years. So there's an awful lot of knowledge in there that can be shared. So if you've got questions directly about the qualifications, then I'm your person to come to for that. But there was an awful lot of questions around, do we enjoy it? What's the most challenging thing for us, etc., etc. And then that one around, where will we find the link for the CPD carousel, which Molly's going to send those out to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
sorry, Karina, I was just going to say. Oh, you've got a question. Oh, go on.
I've got one last Slido to do. But Janet, if you'd like to finish off, and then I'll just pop the Slido up.
Thank you. So just while Karina's doing that, I am going to just say that massive thank you again for your cooperation and your contribution to the activities around the Slido, and we'll continue to try and make it as engaging as possible. We apologise that we've not been able to get through all of those questions, and I just wanted to say to Molly, if there was a chance of maybe copying those questions from the chat. I don't even know if it's possible, but if there is, then I'd be interested in seeing those and seeing if I could help, and then maybe they could also be emailed out. And the other thing to say just before we go on to that final slide is just remember why you're doing what you're doing. Stick at it. sometimes, you know, you're on a journey, and journeys are not always smooth. That you're not always going in a straight line, and life would be a little bit boring if you were. There's going to be some twists, there's going to be some turns, there's going to be some cul-de-sacs and some dead ends. Do you know what? It's okay. You can take some steps back. Isabel reminded us, take your time. Just go with your gut. Do what's right for you. And remember that a nod to an anxious parent, a smile, a shared joke can give anybody and everybody a little bit of hope. So be kind to each other, look after yourselves, and we'll see you soon. But we'll end with this Slido. Thank you.
Thanks, Janet. So I've got one last Slido for you, which is about how you've enjoyed the session today. So Molly, could you pop that up for me, please? So we do hope that you've enjoyed today, but we'd like to see how well you feel we have done. And obviously, you know, we'll take into account the suggestions you've put forward for the next event, and hopefully we'll be able to cover these topic areas that you've asked for. I've certainly enjoyed the session today. It's been extremely interesting. I think Isabel is a definite role model. It's somebody who I'd like to spend more time having a chat with, to be honest. And William was very interesting around the university, etc., etc. So there was great stuff coming out of our guest speakers. Do try and access those resources. I think you will find them very useful and very interesting as well. And as Molly said, she'll email the link out. What we'll do, we'll collate the outstanding questions that you put through on Slido. And as Janet says, we can perhaps formulate some answers and then get those out to you. We'll probably put them into a spreadsheet so that we can then get that out to you, and you can see all the questions and the answers that go alongside it. But I'd like also to say thank you very much for joining us today. It's been very good. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll say goodbye to everybody now. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you at the next one. Take care. Bye now.